Ava was 7 months pregnant and glowing with joy. Her baby bump was small but strong, just like the life growing inside her. She was walking home slowly after her regular doctor's checkup. The sun was hot, and the streets were quiet that afternoon. Her feet ached, but her mind was calm. She thought about what color she should paint the baby's room, light yellow or soft blue. She smiled to herself. Life was simple, or so she thought. She crossed the street carefully, holding her belly with one hand and her purse in the other. Just as she reached the corner near the small convenience store, her phone slipped from her hand. It hit the sidewalk with a sharp crack. She bent slowly to pick it up, worried the screen might be broken. But before her fingers could touch it, a loud voice shouted behind her. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" She turned around, confused. A white police officer was standing beside his parked car. His name badge read Brent. His sunglasses covered his eyes, but the tone in his voice was angry. "Too angry I saw you. Don't try to lie," he snapped, stepping closer. Ava looked around, shocked. "I just dropped my phone. I wasn't doing anything." But Brent didn't listen. He walked up fast and grabbed her arm. His grip was tight and rough. "You were trying to break into that car?" he shouted. "Don't play smart." Ava pulled her arm back. Frightened. "That's not true. I swear, I dropped my phone right there." She pointed to the sidewalk where her phone still lay, the screen flickering. Her voice trembled. She looked around, hoping someone would come. But the street was quiet, and it felt like the world had stopped moving. Brent didn't care. "Don't lie to me, girl. I've seen enough of your type." Ava's eyes widened. "Please, I'm pregnant. You're hurting me?" His hand was still on her arm, squeezing harder. She tried to pull away again, but it only made him angrier. Then, without warning, without thinking, he pulled back his fist and punched her right in the face. The sound of the hit echoed through the empty street like thunder. Ava fell back, her knees buckling. Her head spun. She landed on the pavement hard, clutching her stomach. Her face burned where the punch landed. Pain shot through her body. She let out a scream, a loud, broken cry of fear and shock. Brent stood over her, breathing heavy, his hand still in a fist, his face calm, like nothing unusual had just happened. He looked around quickly, making sure no one had seen. But what he didn't know was that someone had. Inside the small convenience store just a few feet away, a boy named Jaden was standing behind the snack aisle. He had been looking at candy. When he heard the officer yell, curious, he walked toward the window and peeked out. And there, through the glass, he saw everything. Jaden was 16, a quiet boy, shy, and always afraid to get involved. But what he saw outside made his heart race. A pregnant woman on the ground, a white cop standing over her, a punch that didn't make sense, a moment that felt wrong. Jaden's hands shook. He pulled out his old phone. The screen was cracked, and the camera wasn't perfect, but he hit record anyway. He didn't know why. Something inside told him this moment had to be saved. Someone had to see this. The world had to know. Outside, Ava tried to sit up. Her hand was on her belly. She was crying. "My baby, please. Someone help." Brent leaned down. "You better not say a word about this. No one will believe you anyway. Don't make this worse." He turned and walked back to his car, calmly like nothing had happened. He got inside, started the engine, and drove off down the street, leaving Ava alone on the ground. Jaden's heart was racing. He ran outside the store and knelt beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Ava looked up at the boy. Her eyes were red, filled with pain and fear. I need help, please." Jaden nodded and shouted for someone to call an ambulance. A few people from the store ran out to help. One of them, a young woman, quickly called for help. Minutes later, the sound of sirens filled the air. An ambulance arrived, and 2 paramedics rushed out. They lifted Ava carefully onto a stretcher. She kept whispering, "My baby, please check my baby." Jaden stood back, watching. His phone was still recording, but he stopped it now. He didn't know what to do next. He had the proof. He had seen everything. But would anyone believe a scared teenage boy? Inside the ambulance, Ava was shaking. The pain in her face was sharp, but the fear for her unborn child was even worse. She kept thinking about the officer's face. Cold, angry, powerful. She thought about staying silent. What if no one believed her? What if the officer came back? What if speaking up made everything worse? Jaden watched the ambulance drive away, his hands still shaking, his breath short. He had never been involved in anything like this. But deep in his heart, he knew this moment wasn't just about what he saw. It was about what he had to do now. Back in the police station, Officer Brent sat at his desk writing a report. He wrote that Ava had tried to attack him, that she was acting suspicious, that he had to defend himself. He didn't mention the punch. He didn't mention the pain in her eyes. And he definitely didn't mention the boy in the store because Brent thought no one had seen, but he was wrong. Someone had seen, someone had recorded, and that someone was about to become the voice that could shake an entire system, because even when the world is quiet, the truth still speaks, and this time, it would scream. Jaden couldn't sleep that night. His room was dark, but his mind was wide awake. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, hearing the sound of the punch again and again. He kept seeing Ava's face, the fear in her eyes, her body on the ground, her hands holding her belly. That moment felt like a nightmare, but it wasn't a dream. It was real. On his cracked phone screen was the proof. The video he had recorded from behind the store's window. The angle wasn't perfect, and the sound was a little shaky, but the truth was there. A police officer, a pregnant woman, a punch that was impossible to forget. Jaden sat up in bed and looked at the phone again. He replayed the video in the dark, the same 3 seconds that could change everything. He didn't know what to do. He was just a school kid. He had never spoken in front of crowds, never made a video go viral, never done anything brave before. But this wasn't about being brave. It was about being human. In the living room, his mother was asleep on the couch. She had worked a double shift at the hospital and barely had time to eat dinner. Jaden didn't want to wake her up. She had enough on her plate, so he sat alone in silence, watching the video again and again. Outside, the world had no idea what had happened. On that quiet street, Ava was in the hospital, silent. Officer Brent had returned home, silent, and Jaden. He was the only one who had seen the truth, who had the truth in his hands. He knew he couldn't keep it locked away. By morning, the city had returned to normal. People went to work. Children played in parks. Buses filled the streets. No one knew what happened to Ava. Her name hadn't appeared on the news. There were no reports, no headlines. The system had already started to bury the truth. But Jaden, COULDN single quotes. He sat at the kitchen table with his phone. He took a deep breath and opened the video app. His hands trembled as he uploaded the footage. He didn't add his name. He didn't speak. He only titled the video, "Cop Punches Pregnant Woman, Caught on Camera." He pressed post and just like that, the truth was out. At first, nothing happened. A few views, a few comments. But within an hour, it spread like wildfire. People started sharing it on social media. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, news pages picked it up. Shocking video. Police brutality caught on tape. Pregnant woman assaulted by officer. Citizens demand justice. By noon, it was everywhere. In the hospital, Ava was lying in a white bed. Her face was bruised, her eyes were swollen from crying. The nurse had told her the baby was safe, but she still felt like the world was falling apart. She didn't want to speak. She didn't want to tell anyone what happened. She was too scared, until her boyfriend Marcus walked into the room, holding his phone. "Ava," he said, his voice shaking, "you need to see this." He played the video in front of her, and there it was. The punch, the fall, her cry. Ava covered her mouth. Who filmed this? "I don't know," Marcus said, "but someone saw, someone cared." Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time since it happened, she didn't feel alone. Someone had seen, someone had believed her without her saying a word. Back at school, Jaden sat in the back row of his class. Everyone was talking about the video. His classmates were watching it on their phones, whispering, pointing, repeating the same words over and over. "That cop is crazy. Did you see her stomach? She could have lost the baby." Jaden didn't speak. He didn't say it was him. He just listened. Part of him felt proud, but a bigger part felt scared. What if someone found out? What if Officer Brent found out? After school, he walked home fast. His backpack felt heavy, not because of books, but because of what he was carrying inside. Fear, doubt, truth. That night, his mother saw the video on the news. She turned to Jaden, her face pale. "Did you see this?" she asked softly. Jaden looked at her. Then he nodded. "I recorded it," he whispered. His mother froze. Then slowly, she reached across the table and held his hand. "I'm proud of you," she said. "But this won't be easy. I know, you did the right thing. But now we have to be careful." Jaden's heart beat faster. "Do you think he'll come for me?" His mother didn't answer right away. "People like him. They don't like being exposed. But we'll protect you, I promise." Across the city, Brent was watching the video too. His hands clenched into fists. He couldn't believe it. He had been sure no one saw. He had scanned the street, he had checked the corners, but someone had been watching. Someone had recorded. And now, the world knew. He turned off the screen and picked up his phone. He called someone high up and said, "We've got a problem." In the hospital, Ava finally spoke to a detective. She told the truth. Everything. About the walk home, about the officer, about the punch. The detective listened, taking notes, nodding slowly. But would anything happen? Would Brent be punished? Jaden didn't know, but something had changed. A silence had been broken, a voice had risen, and a boy who had always stayed in the shadows was now the light shining on the truth. The world still didn't know his name, but they had seen what he saw, and the truth, once seen, cannot be unseen, because justice, no matter how late, always begins with someone who dares to speak. The hospital room was cold, quiet, and filled with a heavy silence that pressed down on Ava like 1,000 bricks. The white walls, the soft beep of machines, and the smell of medicine made her feel even more alone. Her face still throbbed where Officer Brent had hit her. The bruise was deep, spreading across her cheek like a painful reminder. But the real pain wasn't on her face. It was inside her, in her chest, in her heart, in her fear. The doctor had told her the baby was safe. For now, that should have brought relief. But it didn't. Ava kept wondering, what if the punch had landed just a little lower? What if she had fallen harder? What if the baby hadn't moved afterward? The fear wouldn't leave her. Her hands stayed on her belly, as if holding her unborn child would keep the world away. Marcus, her boyfriend, had barely left her side since the ambulance brought her in. He held her hand, whispered comforting words, and brought her water when she couldn't stop shaking. But Ava hardly spoke, not even when he asked her what really happened. She just shook her head and stared at the wall, until he showed her the video again, the same clip that was now being shared all across the country, the same 3 seconds that had changed everything. "This kid," Marcus said, holding the phone up, "whoever he is, he saved you. Ava, people believe you now. They see it with their own eyes." Ava finally turned toward him, her eyes red and tired. "But what if it's not enough?" she said quietly. "What if they say it's edited? What if they protect him?" "They can't," Marcus said firmly. "It's too big now. Everyone's watching." But Ava had lived long enough to know that even when the world was watching, justice didn't always come. Sometimes, especially for women like her, it never came at all. A soft knock came at the door. A nurse entered with a clipboard, followed by a woman in a dark suit. She introduced herself as Detective Carla Reese. Her voice was calm, gentle, but serious. "I saw the video," she said, "and I want to hear your side, if you're ready." Ava hesitated, her body tensed. She looked at Marcus. He nodded slowly. With a shaky breath, Ava began to speak. She told the detective everything, from the moment her phone dropped, to the way Brent grabbed her, to the punch that knocked her down. Every word was heavy, as if she were pulling stones from her chest, but she spoke. And as she spoke, a strange feeling came over her. It wasn't fear, it was something stronger, something older. It was the feeling of truth finally set free. Detective Reese wrote down every word. She didn't interrupt. She didn't rush. When Ava finished, the detective looked her in the eye and said, "Thank you. That was brave." Ava closed her eyes. She didn't feel brave. She just felt tired. Across the city, in a quiet apartment, with peeling walls, Jaden sat at his desk, watching the number on his video rise by the minute. Hundreds of thousands, then 1,000,000. And climbing. His heart was pounding. His inbox was full of messages, strangers thanking him, news outlets asking for interviews, and some filled with hate. He hadn't expected that. Some people were angry, not at the cop, but at him. "You're just trying to be famous. That woman deserved it. Stop lying. Cops are heroes." Jaden didn't understand how people could watch the same video and not see the truth, but his mother did. "They don't want to see it," she said, "because if they do, they'll have to admit it's real, and that scares them more than anything." Jaden looked at her. Should I have stayed quiet? His mother walked over and hugged him. "No," she said softly. "You did what was right, and right is never easy." At the police station, Officer Brent was trying to hold his ground. He still wore his uniform, still walked the halls like nothing had changed. But inside, he was panicking. He had lied in his report, said Ava was aggressive, said she had tried to run, said she hit him first. It was all written down, black and white. But the video told a different story. He called his union lawyer. He demanded support from his captain. He went on local TV and said the video was out of context, that people didn't see what happened before, that he was just doing his job. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't control the story anymore. The truth had already escaped, and now, people were asking questions. Why was she approached in the first place? Why didn't he call for backup? Why was she not arrested? If she had really attacked him, the city's mayor held a press conference. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted, "We are launching an internal investigation into the incident involving Officer Brent. We do not tolerate misconduct in our police force." It was a safe answer, a political one, but it wasn't justice. Not yet, and Ava knew that she lay awake that night, one hand on her stomach, the other holding Marcus's fingers. "I don't want him to get away with this," she whispered. "I don't want our child to grow up in a world where people like him still wear a badge." "You won't have to," Marcus said. "We're going to fight, all of us." In the quiet of his room, Jaden made another decision. He turned on his camera and sat in front of it. This time, not to record someone else, but to speak for himself. He looked into the lens and said, "My name is Jaden Brooks. I'm the kid who recorded the video. I saw what happened, and I couldn't stay silent." He spoke slowly, from the heart. "I didn't do it for fame. I didn't do it for likes. I did it because it was wrong. What that cop did, it was wrong. And I hope one day, we won't need videos to prove it." He posted it, and went to bed. By morning, everything would change again. Because now, the world not only saw the truth, they knew who had shown it. And the boy behind the camera had just become the voice that would not be silenced. The world didn't sleep that night. Screens glowed in dark bedrooms, fingers scrolled endlessly. News channels played the same few seconds again and again. A pregnant black woman, a white police officer, a punch, and then the fall. The silence, the scream, the disbelief. By sunrise, the video had been shared over 10 million times. People from across the country and even outside it were reposting it, reacting, shouting, crying. Anger spread like fire. Ava's face was on every screen, though no one knew her name yet. But one thing was certain, the world had seen something it could not unsee. And now, they wanted answers. Jaden hadn't planned for any of this. He sat on the edge of his bed, his phone buzzing nonstop, his face calm but nervous, now lived inside the phones and laptops of millions. Ever since he posted the video of himself admitting he was the one who filmed the incident, the response had exploded. Messages poured in from strangers calling him a hero, thanking him for being brave. His school principal had called his mother. Local reporters were knocking on their door. Everyone wanted to hear from the boy behind the camera, but Jaden didn't feel like a hero. Not yet. His mother sat beside him on the bed, gently holding his hand. "I'm proud of you," she said again, "but it's going to get louder now, and not all of it will be kind." She was right. While thousands praised Jaden, others attacked him. Some said he made the whole thing up, others sent threats. Cruel messages, full of hate. Some even posted his home address online. Jaden tried not to read the worst ones, but they haunted him. They made his chest tighten, his fingers shake, but when he felt afraid, he remembered Ava, lying on the ground, holding her stomach, crying out for help. That image burned into his mind and reminded him why he couldn't stay silent. At the hospital, Ava saw Jaden's video too. It was the first time she saw his face. He was just a kid, soft-spoken, honest, brave in a way she had never expected. Asked the nurse to bring her a tablet, and she played the video over and over again. Her fingers trembled as she watched the boy speak, not with anger, but with calm truth. He didn't scream, he didn't demand. He simply told the world what he saw, and that made people listen. Ava turned to Marcus. "I want to meet him," she said softly. Marcus nodded. "We'll find him." In the streets, protests began forming. Small at first. A few people with signs, then larger crowds, then thousands. People marched with Ava's image on posters. They chanted her name, now made public by news reports. Ava Turner. They demanded justice, demanded action, demanded that Officer Brent be arrested, but at the police station. Brent was still working, still wearing the badge, still walking the halls like nothing had happened. He watched the news with growing rage. Every time he saw the video, every time someone said Brent should be fired, his blood boiled. "They're turning me into a monster," he growled to his lawyer. "This kid Jaden, he doesn't even know what really happened." But no one was listening to Brent anymore. The truth had taken over. The police department released a short statement. "We are investigating the incident thoroughly and ask the public to remain calm." But calm was no longer an option. People didn't want promises. They wanted justice. Jaden was invited to speak at a town hall meeting. At first, he didn't want to go. The idea of standing in front of hundreds of people, of reporters, of cameras, it scared him, but his mom reminded him that truth is only powerful if you keep sharing it. So he went. And when he stood at that microphone, people listened. "I didn't expect to be standing here," he said. "I just went to the store for candy. I never thought I'd witness something so wrong. And I never thought the world would care about what I saw. But now that you do, don't look away." The crowd went quiet. Jaden looked out and saw Ava sitting in the front row. She had come with Marcus, quietly, without announcing anything. When their eyes met, she gave him a small nod, a silent thank you. A deep connection passed between them in that moment, two strangers forever linked by one terrible act, and one bold decision. After the meeting, Ava asked to meet him. He stood before her, nervous, unsure of what to say, but she pulled him into a gentle hug. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my baby." Jaden's eyes filled with tears. He had never felt more certain that he had done the right thing. But far away, in a dark office, Officer Brent sat watching the town hall on a muted screen. His jaw was tight, his eyes were cold. He didn't just feel cornered, he felt hunted. And when a man like Brent feels hunted, he fights back. The next morning, someone broke a window at Jaden's house. A brick lay on the floor of their living room, glass everywhere. A note was attached. "Stop lying or next time it won't be a brick." Jaden's mom screamed. She called the police, a different department. They came quickly, looked serious, but said little. Jaden sat on the couch, holding the brick in his hands. His courage felt smaller now. His fear was growing again. But he knew one thing. This meant they were scared of him, scared of the truth, because truth once spoken is dangerous to those who hide behind lies. Later that day, Jaden received a message on social media. It was from a famous civil rights lawyer. "We want to help you. We want to help her. Let's bring this officer to court. Let's make sure justice is not just a word." Jaden didn't know what would happen next, but he knew something had already begun, something that could not be stopped, because now the truth wasn't just viral. It was alive, it was marching, and it had names, faces, and voices that would not be silenced again. The storm wasn't calming down, it was growing. Every news channel in the city, and even across the country, was now covering the case. Headlines screamed the same questions. Why was Officer Brent still free? Why was Ava never protected? And who was this brave kid who refused to stay quiet? The world had seen the truth, but justice still hadn't arrived. People were angry. People were watching. And in the middle of it all stood a 16-year-old boy, who had only gone to the store for a snack. Jaden's life had completely changed. He was no longer invisible. Once shy and quiet, he now found himself on the front lines of a national conversation. His face was recognized, his voice was shared. But with every step forward, the pressure on his shoulders grew heavier. The hate messages hadn't stopped, neither had the threats. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped. His mother had started locking every door and window twice. Every shadow outside their home made them nervous. Jaden had always believed that telling the truth was the right thing to do. He just didn't know how dangerous it could be. Still, he didn't back down. When the famous lawyer Elijah Hart called and offered to meet, Jaden and his mom agreed. Elijah had worked on cases like this before, big ones. He didn't speak loudly, but his voice carried power. When he walked into their small living room, he looked around and said simply, "You're not alone anymore." Jaden sat across from him, trying to hide how nervous he was. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. "Because you helped her," Elijah replied, "and because the truth shouldn't cost a boy his safety." They talked for hours. About Ava, about Brent, about the justice system, about what could happen next. "We want to file a lawsuit," Elijah explained. "A civil case against Brent and the department, but for that, Ava will need to stand with us, and so will you." Jaden looked at his mom, unsure. "You've already stood up," she said softly. "Now let's make it count." At the hospital, Ava was healing slowly, but not just her body. Her spirit, too. She still had nightmares. Still touched her stomach 100 times a day to make sure the baby was okay. But something inside her was changing. The video, the protests, Jaden's bravery, it all reminded her she wasn't just a victim, she was a mother, and mothers protect their children. When Elijah came to meet her, he explained the plan, the case, the risk, the spotlight. Ava listened, quietly, then said, "If I don't speak now, it might happen again, to someone else. Maybe someone who doesn't get lucky like me." Elijah nodded. "Are you ready?" Ava took a deep breath. "I have to be." The lawsuit was announced publicly that week, and the city exploded again. Lawsuit against Officer Brent for assault and civil rights violation. Lawsuit against the police department for covering up misconduct. It was bold. It was loud. It was risky. Brent, meanwhile, was boiling with rage. He had already been suspended from active duty with pay. But now, the spotlight was burning him. The court date was being set. His lawyer had warned him. "They have video. They have testimony. You're in real trouble." But Brent didn't believe in losing. He believed in power. And power, he thought, could silence anything. That's when the threats against Jaden got worse. Anonymous messages, fake profiles, strange cars parked outside his apartment building. Once, someone even followed him home from school. Jaden walked faster, heart racing, until the stranger disappeared into the crowd. That night, he sat in the dark, fists clenched. "I didn't ask for this," he told his mom. "No," she said gently. "But you were chosen for it. You saw the truth, and you did what most people wouldn't." "I'm scared." "So am I," she whispered. "But being scared doesn't mean you stop. It means you're still standing." A few days later, Jaden was invited to appear on a live news show. He didn't want to go. But Ava would be there too for the first time since the video, and she asked him personally. "I don't want to do it alone," she said, so he went. The studio lights were bright, the cameras rolled, the host asked questions. Hard ones, emotional ones. "Jaden, why did you record the video?" "Because it was wrong," he answered, "and I didn't want her to be alone." "Ava, what would you say to people who still doubt your story?" She paused, looked into the camera, then said, "You don't have to believe my words, just watch the video, listen to my pain, and ask yourself if it was your daughter, your sister, your wife, would you still doubt me?" The interview went viral within hours. Support doubled. Donations poured in to help Ava and Jaden's legal fund. Celebrities shared their story. A movement grew stronger, but Brent was growing more dangerous. That same night, a local journalist received a leaked, internal memo. In it, someone from the department had written lies claiming Ava had a violent history, that Jaden had edited the footage, that the whole thing was a trap to ruin a good cop's career. It was an attempt to flip the narrative. But it was too late. Too many people had seen the truth. And the more lies Brent told, the clearer it became who he really was. A bully, a coward, a man used to getting away with it. But this time, he was being held in the light. By a boy who refused to look away, and a woman who refused to stay silent. The court date was now just weeks away. Everyone was watching. The world had taken sides. But Ava, Jaden, and the people who believed in justice, they weren't afraid anymore. They were ready. Ready to speak, ready to fight, ready to show what happens when the truth doesn't hide. The sun hadn't yet risen when Jaden woke to the sound of glass breaking. A crash, a sharp shatter, then silence. For a moment he thought he was dreaming. But when his mother screamed from the living room, his feet hit the floor before he could think. He ran out of his room in panic, and froze. The front window was broken. Tiny shards of glass sparkled across the carpet like ice. Wind rushed through the opening, and on the floor, half buried under the shattered remains, lay something heavy. A brick, wrapped in white paper. His mother's hands trembled as she picked it up. The note was written in thick black marker. Messy, but clear. "Shut up or we'll shut you up." Jaden's breath caught in his throat. His chest burned. His mind raced. They weren't just angry now. They were trying to scare him. into silence. And it was working. The police came within 3 minutes. 2 officers, not from Brent's department, took photos, asked questions, and promised to increase patrols. But their faces didn't show much hope. One officer quietly suggested they consider laying low for a while, as if hiding was the answer. Jaden sat on the couch for hours, staring at the broken glass. He had always known that the truth was powerful, but now, he saw it was also dangerous. He turned to his mom. Maybe I should stop. Maybe this is too much. His mother walked over, kneeled in front of him, and gently placed her hands on his. If you stop now, she said quietly, you let them win? You let people like Brent stay in power. You let silence bury justice again. Is that what you want? Jaden didn't answer. He just shook his head slowly. Across town, Officer Brent was spiraling. He watched every news story with a cold glare. He threw his remote across the room when he saw Ava on TV, standing proud, her belly even rounder now, her voice firm. He read every hateful comment about him and clung to the few supporters who still called him a hero. But deep down, Brent knew the truth was catching up to him, and fast. His lawyer was trying to calm him down. If we can show doubt in the video, make people question its angle, the clarity, the intent, maybe we can swing the court. But Brent wasn't listening. He was planning something darker. If the boy and the woman were going to destroy his name, he would hit back hard. The next day a video appeared online. A grainy, badly edited clip showing Ava in a shouting match from 2 years ago at a local grocery store. She looked upset, angry. A man in the background shouted something, and Ava snapped back. It was nothing violent, just words. But Brent's supporters pushed it like wildfire. Look, she's aggressive. She has a history of causing trouble. The video proves she provoked the officer. It was a lie, a distraction, but some people believed it. Ava saw the video while lying in bed, her hands on her belly. For a moment her heart dropped. They're twisting everything, she whispered. Marcus was furious. This is what they do. They try to make the victim look guilty. Don't fall for it. Ava nodded. I'm not backing down. Not now. But the stress was starting to show. That night, Ava had pain in her side. The baby stopped moving for an hour. She went to the hospital immediately. The doctor said it was stress-related. You need rest, the nurse said gently. Too much tension can harm your baby. Ava looked down at her stomach. What if justice hurts her before she's even born? The nurse held her hand. Then you fight smart, not loud, but smart. Jaden heard about Ava's scare the next morning. His hands curled into fists. She's doing this for justice, he said, and it's tearing her apart. Elijah, their lawyer, was preparing for the court case. This is the part they don't show in movies, he told Jaden. The waiting, the fear, the games. They want you to crack, but the courtroom is coming, and it was. The date was set, 2 weeks away. In the meantime, more drama exploded online. A fake account pretending to be Jaden posted lies, claiming he'd been paid, that he was acting, that the whole video was a setup. Jaden went live again. He sat in front of the camera, his voice low but steady. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes in my life. But what I saw that day was real. What I recorded was real. Ava didn't attack anyone. She was walking home pregnant, and she got punched by a man who wore a badge. If that's not wrong, then what is? The live video was shared millions of times. Even news anchors choked up repeating his words. People began organizing truth rallies. In cities across the country, signs with Jaden's photo and Ava's name were held high. People marched peacefully, their voices rising together. We saw it. We believe her. Protect the truth. But behind all the noise, behind the crowds and cameras, Brent was still free, and he was getting more desperate. One night, someone left a dead rat on Ava's porch. No note, just fear. Marcus called the police again. This time they sent an officer who took it seriously. We're watching the house closely, he promised, but you need to be ready. Things are going to get intense when the trial starts. And intense it would be. The courtroom was waiting. Jaden would soon have to stand up, not just in front of cameras, but before a judge and lawyers. Ready to rip him apart? Ava would have to relive the pain. Brent would finally be forced to answer for his actions, and the world would be watching, because lies had been told, had been made, but the truth was still standing, battered, scared, but unbroken. The courthouse was surrounded, not by police, but by people. People with signs, people with phones, people with voices that refused to be ignored. They came from all walks of life, students, mothers, teachers, activists, even strangers who had simply seen the video and felt something break inside them. They weren't here just for Ava, or just for Jaden. They were here for justice. Real justice. Inside, the courtroom was tense and still. Cold air flowed from the vents. The wooden benches were packed. Cameras weren't allowed, but reporters scribbled notes furiously, ready to spread every word that would be spoken. Jaden sat beside his mother, wearing a plain white shirt and dark pants. His hands were cold. His fingers fidgeted under the table. He had never been in a courtroom before, never spoken under oath, never been looked at like this, like he mattered, like his voice could shift something big. But today, he wasn't just a boy with a video, he was the witness. Ava sat just a few feet away, dressed in soft blue. Her belly was full, her eyes steady, her back straight. It had taken everything she had to walk into this courtroom. Fear, pain, and trauma all still clung to her, but she walked in anyway. Not because she wanted revenge, but because she needed justice. For herself, for her unborn child. At the front of the room, Officer Brent sat stiffly, in a gray suit, not his uniform. His jaw was tight, his expression calm, but fake. His lawyer whispered in his ear now and then, reminding him to stay quiet, to keep his cool, to trust the process. But Brent wasn't worried, not really. He still believed he would walk out free, because that's what always happened. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Then the case began. Elijah Hart rose first, Ava and Jaden's lawyer. His voice was clear and smooth, yet powerful. Ladies and gentlemen of the court, he began. This case is not just about a punch, it's about power. It's about fear. It's about a pregnant woman, peacefully walking home, being assaulted by someone who was supposed to protect her. And it's about a young boy who saw the truth and refused to stay silent. Then came the defense. Lawyer stood up, wearing a smug smile. What happened that day, he said, was tragic. But it's not what the video shows. My client responded to what he believed was suspicious activity. He feared for his safety. The video is edited. It doesn't show the full story. And the woman, Ms. Ava Turner, had a history of public anger and instability. Gasps filled the courtroom. Jaden felt his heart burn. Lies, more lies. The judge banged his gavel. Order in the court. And then, Ava was called to the stand. She stood slowly, walked carefully. Her hand rested on her belly as she raised the other and took the oath, and then she told her story. The courtroom was silent as she spoke. She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. She simply told the truth. How she had dropped her phone. How Brent had screamed. How she had begged him to stop. How the punch felt. How her knees hit the ground. How she feared for her baby more than anything else in that moment. He looked at me, she said softly, and still hit me. He didn't see a woman, or a mother, or a human being. He saw a problem, something to punish. Elijah asked his questions gently. Brent's lawyer, however, attacked like a snake. You've been in arguments before, haven't you? Yes, Ava said. You yelled at people in public. I've defended myself. Yes. You were emotional. I was pregnant? You could have been mistaken for a threat. I was 7 months pregnant and crying. I wasn't a threat. I was a target. A soft murmur passed through the courtroom. Ava stepped down, tired but strong. Then it was Jaden. He walked slowly to the witness stand. His legs felt heavy, his hands cold. But when he raised his hand and swore to tell the truth, something in his heart settled. Elijah smiled at him. Jaden, what did you see that day? I saw her drop her phone, he said. I saw the officer yell. I saw him grab her. She was scared. She told him she was pregnant. Then he hit her. I saw everything. I recorded it. Elijah nodded. Why did you record it? Because it felt wrong, and I was afraid no one would believe her. A few people in the audience wiped their eyes. Brent's lawyer stood. He smirked. You're just a kid, right? Yes. You're not trained in law enforcement. No. You don't know what real danger looks like. I know what a punch looks like, Jaden replied. You don't know what happened before you started recording, do ya? I saw enough. You posted the video to get attention, didn't you? Jaden looked him in the eye. No. I posted it so the world would see what happened. Not my version. The real version. The lawyer frowned. Jaden stepped down. The judge called for a break. Outside the courthouse, the crowd had doubled. News reporters stood with microphones. Protesters held signs high. And inside the courtroom, tension was building. Brent was growing red with frustration. His lawyer whispered, Stay calm, we still have time to shift this. But Brent's patience was cracking. Later that day, the prosecution played the video in court, the full clip, from start to finish. No edits. No cuts, just truth. The courtroom went dead silent. Even the jurors flinched. When the punch landed, even the judge leaned forward. Brent's face turned pale. The sound of Ava's cry filled the room. Her voice echoed like a wound reopened. When the video ended. No one said a word, because the video didn't need explanation. It spoke louder than any lawyer ever could. The day ended, and the trial was set to continue. But the message was clear. The truth had been shown, and now justice had to decide what to do with it. The courtroom was packed again, not a single empty seat. The air was tight, heavy with silence. People whispered in the halls, but inside, no one spoke above a breath. The jury had returned after hours of tense deliberation. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the wooden door at the side of the room. Jaden sat beside his mother, clutching her hand. His leg bounced uncontrollably. Sweat lined his palms. He had never been this nervous before, not even during his testimony. This was the moment. The world was watching, but more importantly, he was waiting. Waiting to know if truth really mattered. Ava sat just across the aisle, her hands gently resting on her swollen belly. Her face was calm, but her eyes betrayed the storm inside her. Marcus sat beside her, his arm around her shoulders. She was tired emotionally, physically, but she had come this far. She wouldn't stop now. And at the front of the room, Officer Brent sat with a smug half-smile. Even now, with the video played, with witnesses speaking truth, he believed he would walk free. He leaned over and whispered to his lawyer, They'll never convict a cop. Not me. The bailiff stood all rise. The judge walked in. The jury followed. 12 people, 12 faces that now held the weight of justice in their hands. The judge looked toward the jury box. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes and shaking fingers, stood up and nodded. We have, Your Honor. Ava gripped Marcus's hand tighter. Jaden held his breath. The entire room leaned forward waiting. The paper was handed to the judge. He unfolded it. Slowly, Red paused, then looked up. In the case of Ava Turner versus Officer Daniel Brent, on the charge of assault and misconduct under color of law, we the jury find the defendant. The room was so still, you could hear hearts pounding. Guilty. Gasps. Cries. Then silence, stunned and thick, and then, as if breaking through a dam, applause burst from the back of the courtroom. Tears streamed down Ava's face. She buried her head in Marcus's shoulder and finally sobbed, not from pain, but relief. Jaden sat frozen, not sure if he'd heard it right. Guilty. His mother whispered through tears. You did it, Jaden? We all did. Officer Brent stood slowly, his face pale, shocked, confused, like the floor had disappeared beneath him. He looked at the judge, then at his lawyer. This is a joke, he snapped. I didn't do anything wrong. She provoked me. That video doesn't show enough, the judge said sternly. Sit down. But Brent didn't. He turned toward the crowd, toward Ava. She lied, he shouted, pointing at her. She set me up. All of this is fake. 2 officers moved in quickly. Don't touch me, Brent yelled. I was the good guy. I protected this city. But the courtroom had already stopped listening. He was no longer a protector. He was a convict. They let him out the side door, still shouting, still cursing, and just like that, the room began to breathe again. The judge turned to Ava. Ms. Turner. On behalf of this court, I am deeply sorry for what you endured. Thank you for your courage. And Mr. Brooks, his eyes turned to Jaden. Thank you for your bravery. This court would not have seen the truth without you. Jaden nodded quietly. For the first time in weeks, his shoulders relaxed. Outside the courthouse, the crowd had grown tenfold. And when Ava stepped out, they erupted into cheers. Reporters rushed forward, cameras flashed, but Ava didn't speak yet. She just lifted her hand gently, placing it over her heart. Then, she pointed toward Jaden, who had just walked out behind her. The crowd turned and clapped for him. He froze, unsure of what to do, until Ava walked over and wrapped him in a hug. You gave me back my voice, she whispered. Jaden's eyes filled with tears. You were always strong, he replied. I just helped the world see it. A week later, Brent was sentenced to 5 years in prison. It wasn't forever. It wasn't enough to erase the trauma, but it was a beginning. A message that no one is above the law, that no uniform protects wrong forever. That truth, when caught in the hands of the brave, cannot be buried. Jaden was awarded a Community Courage Medal. Schools invited him to speak. Organizations offered him scholarships, but he didn't want fame. He never had. He returned to school a little more confident, a little less invisible. Not because the world now saw him, but because he now saw his own strength. Ava gave birth to a healthy baby girl 2 months later. She named her Hope, because through pain, fear, and darkness, there had still been light. A small act, a quiet decision. A boy with a phone who refused to look away. It doesn't take an army to fight injustice. Sometimes, it takes one brave witness to make the world listen.